Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Deborah Peters, and welcome to the Deborah Peters Show. Absolutely thrilled to have you join me. I've got an amazing guest today, and I want to tell you a little bit about what this show is all about. And that is, it's a show about consciousness in every area of your life. And I picked 5 because I have found over the last 20 some years coaching in 17 countries that to a wide variety of industries, that there's basically 5 areas of our lives that we are impacted by, that we have the capacity to gain mastery over, and that can change everything. And that's health, wealth, business, relationships, and self expression. And they often dovetail. So today it's all about relationships. And my guest is Dana Humphrey from New York. So I want everybody to jump in here and let's get rolling. Dana, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm very
It's so
excited.
exciting. Yes, and it's interesting to how, as I'm interviewing guests for the show, that we just have so much in common. I felt like I met a really good friend when we did our pre-interview.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
It's so cool. And you're doing some phenomenal work. I love that you've been willing to really embrace what's important to you instead of what you should do based on societal norms, the status quo, the safe, logical minded, um, left brain kind of thinking of if you pivot for whatever reason, that you're going to lose it all and you're going to struggle and life is going to be hard. And none of that is true.
Yeah, exactly.
None of that is true. So, today when I was doing the shares for the show, and I was thinking, the never ending drama of relationships is our topic today. And there's always a change in process or experience within our relationships. What got you going in this direction? Because you basically have pivoted into coaching and helping people.
Yeah, well, I've been a publicist for about 15 years and running a PR company and doing a bunch of different things that, yeah, at some point when I was like 18, I decided that I should go to school and get a PR degree. And so I've been doing that and hustling it here in New York. And as I kind of peel back the curtain of my own codependency and people pleasing, I realized that career choice is like just part of that spiral.
It is. And I remember when I went to college, I was a single mom. I was a single mom at 15. And so I went to college because that's what you were supposed to do. And the study was business administration. That was, the other thing you were supposed to do. Also, although I could have perhaps followed a different track and become a nurse or a dental hygienist or a teacher, which I really have always been a teacher, but and nothing wrong with those professions. We definitely need them. I just wasn't wired for any of that. However, going down that path and getting into business, I feel like really opened me up to being a business coach today and a speaker and now a podcast show host. And the key here, I think, is what you're saying, is to be willing to grow and expand beyond however it currently looks.
Yeah, I mean, PR can be seductive and it's part of this like greed wheel for me of just, learning to say no to projects that might bring me a lot of money, but are not going to make me very happy. And sure, it's given me a great foundation and a great background to be able to do all kinds of other things. So I don't know. Right now, I'm in kind of a place of experimentation of like, yeah, what do I want my life to look like, and how can it be, and how can I live without this like trust of doing this job that I've done for so
The
many years.
safe thing.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
safe thing. I know. It's interesting, and then we'll dig more into the relationship dynamic. I guess we're really talking about the relationship that we have with ourselves right now, because that's where it all starts and stops. Um, for me, over the course of my coaching business growth, being being focused enough, I'm going to use that word, being focused enough on what I want,
yeah,
and having faith that by the focus of my mind, it will come to pass. And then trusting the guidance that comes through intuitively to move toward it. Because really, that's what we're talking about. You get an idea, and then you just really need to move toward it, because what you are seeking is seeking you.
yeah.
And if you take steps toward it and trust that, I had to learn this and it's been hard. Trust that as you step toward it, it's like paving stones on the path to show the path. Just land in time for you to put your foot down. And
Yeah,
right?
right.
And when you can like trust that,
Yeah,
as freakish and scary as it is, then you suddenly master yourself. And when you master yourself, it's like the whole universe is like at your beck and call.
yeah.
So over the course of my time in this industry, I've gone through these phases of, I'm not going to do any more one-on-one sessions. I'm only doing groups. I'm only doing companies. I'm only doing leadership teams. And then I find myself having someone come along or referred to me that is like, you really got to work with this person.
Right.
And then I have a situation like I had yesterday where I had done some onboarding communication with someone, and then they pulled out at the 12th hour. And I'm like, see, this is why you don't do one-on-ones anymore. Because
Mm-hmm.
don't you find that when you're really about to go to the next level, that's when something comes along, right, and freaks you out, and you pull back?
Yeah, I have to keep, I had decided a while. I've known for years that I didn't want to do PR anymore, and I've gone through all these routes of like, oh, I'll sell my business, I'll do this, and then at the end of December, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who used to be a publicist also, and she said to me, when you're a publicist, you'll be rich, but you'll be miserable, and that was like that was the trigger that I needed to say, you know what, it's the end of December, is the perfect time to email all my clients and say, for 2022, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not working with you. Here's someone I'm referring you to. And from now on, like, that's it. And yeah, trust me, there have been phone calls and emails
They're pulling on you.
had since then, right? That I've been, it is a pull. It is
It's
a
like,
pull.
don't go.
Yeah.
I know. It's crazy. I find that, so, as we get into the whole relationship dynamic thing, and I want you to share your 2020 story, and I think that'll be a great segue. Um, everything is energy.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn this the hard way. It was about 20 years ago. I had this amazing friend, just loved her to death. And we would trade sessions with each other as we were evolving past our emotional programming and our belief systems and whatnot. And, I had a series of really crazy relationships with boyfriends. And one of the things that came out of that was an understanding that we can create these trauma bonds. And so I couldn't figure out for the life of me for such a long time why I kept manifesting the same guy just in a different body. And so we got digging into that, and it's like, oh, this is a trauma bond. So really, the only thing I can do right now is to heal myself so I don't have that trauma trigger to put out there energetically to bond with the next boyfriend.
Yeah, that magnet.
Right? And so I think that's what you're talking about in your business. It's like, me too. It's we're so used to putting out a certain self-awareness vibration that has a lot of bandwidth on it that just kind of runs on its own after a while. We have to consciously pivot into a new vibration and give that more attention, because that's what builds up the bandwidth.
Yeah, I think it's also about self-integrity, right? Like
Yeah.
like if I told somebody that I would do something on a certain day and time, like I would do it.
Yeah.
And like, can you do that for yourself? Like, can I say, okay, I'm not doing PR anymore, and actually like trust myself to not do it? And that's really like, yeah, whatever kind of relationship, that's if you have self-trust, really, 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 that other people can trust you. It's like the ripple just keeps going.
Yeah, when you're no longer willing to let yourself down or to forsake yourself out of some kind of old paradigm structure that you've been living that says, and I think that was like a night I saw this sign painted on this wall in downtown Los Angeles that had a picture. It was a painting of a woman in sort of like 1950s kind of look and feel. And then it had, and I'm gonna, butcher this, but it had a caption that said something about that notion where I put other people ahead of myself is so 1950s or something like that. And I was like, right? I mean, I used to hear my mom, the women in my family lived that mantra where they just would put people in front of themselves, and unlearning that and learning how to keep my word with myself was just like such a sharp learning curve. I have to say, it was like climbing Mount Everest for real. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfamiliar.
So tell us, I want to know, because I feel like your 2020 experience was probably a big turning point for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And enabled you to really cultivate an authentic relationship with yourself. So I would love the audience to hear about that.
All right. So in March of 2020, I was supposed to fly with some friends of mine. They're a couple. And the three of us were going to fly to Guatemala together to do a training called ISTA. It's the International School of Temple Arts. And it's a spiritual, sexual, shamanic training. So, we had booked the flights, we had booked the hotels, we had booked the after party. And it was supposed to be March 18th. And around the beginning of March, they said to me, we're not going. And I said, oh, okay. I think I'm still going to go.
Good for you.
So March 14th rolls around. I have a hot yoga practice. I go almost every day. So I go to hot yoga. I come back. I'm already packed because I'm excited. And I'm a Capricorn. So I'm like, I do things ahead of time. I was ready to go. And I go to Facebook. And I see on Facebook that where I get most of my news, I saw that the Guatemalan border was going to close to North Americans at midnight that night. And I was like, what?
Wow.
How? Like, I still want to go on my trip. I still want to go to this retreat. I checked with the retreat people. Is it still happening? They said, yes, it's still happening. Come. I called United Airlines. I said, I'm supposed to fly on the 18th. can I fly today? They said, can you get to LaGuardia in an hour? And I said, yes. And I grabbed my bag.
Dash.
I grabbed my laptop at the very last second.
Wow. God bless you.
And I just, I took a shower and I went to the airport. That's it. And at like 11:45 p.m., I landed in Guatemala City by myself. It was the last airplane to arrive. And it was March 14th. If you can try to remember like life at that time, it wasn't, we didn't know yet.
We were on the edge.
We didn't know, like, there was no mask mandate at the last second. I'm a Burning Man person, so I go to Burning Man. At the last second, I grabbed my Burning Man mask on the way out, which is actually like a dog grooming mask. Anyway, so I had that. Now it's midnight and I'm in Guatemala City by myself. And I was like, oh,
okay.
Okay, this was the part where I wanted to travel with my friends, So I get an Uber. And I book an Airbnb. Like, it happened really easily. And I get to my Airbnb and I log onto the Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi password is my first dog's name, which is Winston. And I was like, okay,
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, right?
Yeah.
I'm good.
I'm okay.
Plus, my Winston was a pug, and pugs are like, my little spirit communication. Like, all things are good happening. So anyway, I had to get from Guatemala City to Lake Atitlan. And so I took like the last bus that was working in the country. Guatemala knew that it was not ready for COVID. Like, they knew they were not prepared. So they were one of the first countries to like really take things seriously. They weren't trying to pretend that they had like a good hospital system, because they knew they just didn't. So they were very quick to lock stuff down. Like, I had like I went to breakfast and I came back and the guy running the Airbnb was like, there's no more breakfast. And I was like, don't worry, I just had breakfast next door. Like, I think they'll probably make you some eggs or whatever. And he's like, no, like the president just announced it. So I spent a few days living on Pringles and bananas.
Wow.
Corner store, but things were slowly starting to really, really close. Eventually, I took an illegal taxi from Antigua to Lake Atitlan, and it was like super windy. And I was like, hey, can I open the window? And he was like, no, you're not allowed to be back there. They can't see you. I was like, oh, okay. All right, got it.
My God, that's crazy.
So I finally make it to the retreat center. And I get there and, I'm like on this boat taxi and I'm all excited. And I'm like,
Can I just interject for 1 second? Hold that thought. So that's an example of the paving stone landing on the ground right in front of your foot. That illegal taxi showing up for you.
Yeah.
Every step. Okay, keep going. Okay.
And the boat taxi. I mean, the illegal taxi took me to a boat taxi that was somehow magically there to pick me up. And we get to the retreat and I get on the deck and I'm like, I made it. I'm here, and they're like, hi, you need to leave. And I'm like, no, I'm Dana. I'm from New York. I'm here.
Remember me? I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, I was expecting like a big hug and like, yay, you made it. No, they're like, you need to leave right now. You cannot be here. So I got back on the water taxi, and the water taxi took me to San Marcos, and I connected with another woman who was in the same situation as me.
See? All right, keep going. I love this.
And I mean, so basically like the retreat center was not allowed to take on any new people because they were scared that maybe I had COVID. And so I ended up living in a yurt for a couple of days. I spent that time taking like my diary from the last 5 years and like typing it into my computer.
Wow.
Eventually turning that into a book. But within a couple of days, the after party place that we had booked after this retreat that we didn't get to do ended up being my house with 12 other people for 3 months.
Wow, how cool.
We rented this big house on the lake. We were supposed to have it for 3 days. It's normally like where Guatemalan families go to get married, and like it's like a special occasion house. It has a big, beautiful lawn, and it's right on the lake. And
How's it
normally,
get better than that?
yeah, there was a hot tub, there was a temazcal.
Oh my God.
Normally, they don't rent it to
Horrible.
people for long periods of time. And slowly, I mean, basically day by day, we were in conversations with the landlord, and she was like, we're like, can we stay? And she was like, well, yeah, please stay. And everything was closed at that point. Like I had literally taken the last water taxi on the lake that happened at all. Even the 11 others that came and met me, like had to go through like a special police crossing. So
Crazy.
the local town, it was a 500-person town in Guatemala on the lake, and they knew about us. We're 12 gringos. We're from all around the world. I mean, we had Israel, Spain, France, Belgium, Mexico. I mean, the 12 of us were international. Luckily, we also had a common language of English. And day by day, they would send a team of nurses to come and take our temperature and take our blood pressure every single day. And we were on full lockdown.
Fascinating.
It was full lockdown. We weren't allowed to go anywhere. We were allowed to send one person out from our house every day to get groceries.
Food, yeah.
Yeah. And it was an amazing experience. So a couple weeks in, it was one of our roommates' birthdays. So we threw him like a little birthday party at the house, and I kind of joked with them that if we were still here, if we were still in Guatemala by one of our other roommates' birthdays, 40th birthday, that I was gonna shave my head. And that was on May 7th. It was a full moon, and all of a sudden, March had ended, April was ending, it's almost May, and now we're paying rent for May, and I was like, I think this is happening. So I met a neighbor who had done a hair shaving ceremony and had made 3 braids. He had long hair, and he made 3 braids, one for the past, one for the present, and one for the future.
Cool.
So I took this ceremony idea on, and I burned 1 braid, I buried 1 braid, and I donated 1 braid for to the future. And we did this beautiful ceremony in our lawn. Everyone wore white. And that
is so cool.
Shaving my head was a big part of the transformational experience that happened there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So obviously you went through a lot on every level, but what I'm sensing is there's now this level of spiritual maturity, like AKA consciousness about you. Can you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I have like a whole new family of 11 brothers and sisters that I didn't have before. And, I mean, it was as much as it was a big, nice, beautiful house, we had 3 bedrooms and we had 12 people. So like we were really, really living together. And when you live with 11 other people, it's like having 11 different, shades of mirror.
Yes. Yeah, I knew this would be a great segue into relationships. I knew it.
So, every trigger, everything, like you're constantly in it. You're constantly in it.
There's no escaping that.
No.
So if you're triggered, it's in your face till you resolve it within you.
Yeah. And like you there's no privacy. There's zero privacy. Eventually we kind of like made the Temazcal like a private zone, but there was no Wi-Fi in there. So you couldn't even like call a friend or something. And like,
Thank God. Because then you would just perpetuate your problem by talking about it.
Yeah. The avoidance. Yeah.
So, how many bathrooms? I'm dying to know that.
There was 2 bathrooms.
Oh, thank God.
Somehow the bathrooms like wasn't a big deal. I don't know. like we had enough toilet paper. Like, I don't
It all worked out.
Yeah, we were watching the world being like, what's this toilet paper thing? Like,
Oh my gosh. So at the time I was living downtown Los Angeles. I had moved down there and moved my office down there. And I just made a decision that I was not going to hoard anything,
yeah.
that I was going to trust that
Yeah.
whatever I needed would be provided for me when I needed it. And it was. I never had an issue, including with toilet paper. But I'd walk down the street to one of the department stores and to stock up. I'd buy what I typically bought. I wouldn't buy more than I typically bought, but there'd be people coming out with like, and finally they had to put a limit on it, which was helpful, because then I could just go when I needed to go and get what I needed without any fear of no access. Sometimes it would take me 2 or 3 visits to the store because the shelves would be empty. But I think that's the key, right? To just really trust that because we're creators and we create with our thoughts and we create with our emotions, and that is our vibration, and we draw to us whatever it is we're vibrating at, including toilet paper. It's like, oh my God, it's so crazy. So as you went through this growth process, let's call it that, what is it about relationships that you got on track with that?
Yeah, like something about the hiding, like, it doesn't work. It like whatever you want to hide or you think you're hiding from somebody else, you're probably not. And
whoa, that's
so
huge.
Easier, like it's actually easier to like not do it.
Yeah. You just fess up and go, this is how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do anything about it. Just saying it sets me free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. And that takes some bravery, because we're programmed and conditioned by societal norms that you're just not supposed to say things. You're just not supposed to be too vulnerable, and to reveal how your true feelings for whatever reason. You'll get judged, you'll be misunderstood, you'll be pushed out of the tribe. And like whatever the belief system is, and whatever the mechanism, the response mechanism is, the safety valve of, oh my God, this person was totally honest with me, and so this is our go-to safety valve of, we're either going to deny them access to us, or we're going to judge them. Or, if you're with people that are at least semi-conscious, they'll embrace the authenticity of what you've offered and just basically put out on the table, and then roll with that and take responsibility for their feelings on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had a practice where every single morning at 9 a.m. we would meet and do a sharing circle, and everyone had like we'd pick a new amount of time every day, like 1 minute and 12 seconds or whatever. And each person would have that amount of time to share. And you could use that time to just sit and cry. You could use that time to say nothing, but everyone's attention was on you for that amount of time. And your invitation was to share. And that was really powerful to do that every single day. And, and also be able to witness how maybe someone else would share something uncomfortable or angry or whatever unwanted emotion, and that they were still, part of the family. They were still part of the tribe. Like,
there's the key. they're still part of the family.
Yeah.
So, I grew up in a home, and my listeners and followers have heard me talk about this a lot. I grew up in a home that was very critical. There
Hmm.
was a lot of trauma, violence, um, emotional terrorism, if I can use that word,
Yeah.
um, and shame, and filled with secrets,
Hmm.
filled with secrets. I've been watching, so I had this experience a few years ago. As we all know, if you're into country music, Naomi Judd just made her transition.
Hmm.
And so I've been kind of watching some of their old stuff. I'm a huge fan, always have been from day one.
Yeah.
And I had this opportunity back when I first got into professional speaking to speak at the same women's conference where Naomi was the keynote. And I did one of the breakout sessions, and I was just like, it was like a dream come true for me. It's like the other day I noticed that Tanya Tucker started following me on Instagram, and I'm just like a huge fan of Tanya Tucker. Just like, I totally
Cool.
dig that woman. She's so cool. I've thought that ever since I was a kid. And so here I am at this women's conference, and I pop in. Naomi Judd was the keynote speaker on the lunch, and I pop in and I catch it just at the right time where she's telling the story about checking into this motel with her children late at night in another state, and she's like all black and blue. She puts the kids to bed, and it finally gets a break because she's been on a long road trip, and she walks into the bathroom and she looks in the mirror, and she's just like shocked at how bad her face looks, because her man, I don't know if he was her husband or not, but he had beat her. And she made a decision in that moment. And she said, I realized I had been beating myself up through others
Mm.
most of my life. And I'm sitting in this luncheon, like sobbing, because it's like hitting me right where my, the healing needs to take place. And, I think at that moment, she became even more of my hero. So I've been thinking about what she's been saying, or what some of these old videos are about all these secrets. And that's what my family had, was like secrets. Like you just never talked about anything. You could be dying inside, like emotionally, mentally, literally physically dying,
Mhm.
and you still didn't let it out. And for you to go through that experience, see, this is what's so fascinating about your story. You went through that experience, and no matter what you had to say, you were still part of the family.
Yeah.
That's a turning point in any relationship.
Yeah.
To be honest, to be authentic, to be real, to be raw, to be vulnerable, and not get the boot, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, while I was there, I wrote a memoir, and
Mm.
I also see my life as like, as much as it was like before Guatemala and after Guatemala, it's like before the book and after the book. Like, it's a memoir. It's about my life. It's all the secrets are there.
Mhm.
And so it's like anything that I want to think that anyone's going to judge me about, it's out. And like, there's
Mm.
something very liberating about that.
Yeah,
Um,
because nobody has any control over you.
yeah, like, you want to find it out? Go ahead.
Here,
All
let
in
me
there.
tell you about it.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you
Yeah.
my story and what I learned about me while I was
Yeah.
doing all these shameful things that
Yeah.
you think you have some sort of control over me about, because you think I don't want the world to know,
Yeah.
right? I can tell you that is so huge. So, a few years ago, my mom died, and I flew to the city where she was in the hospital, sort of on her last breath, if you will, to say goodbye to her. And, by the time I got there, she was pretty much unconscious. However, I had this very profound experience in the middle of the night with her that she woke up, she came conscious, and she spoke to me. We had a conversation, and she'd been unconscious for days.
Mhm.
And then I went to my hotel and I was, sort of sleeping, when you're kind of like half awake. And I got this call that she was checking out and I needed, if I wanted to come back to the hospital. So I did. And, I just sat with her and stroked her hair while she took her last breath. And then a little while later, a few hours later, my sister and my nephew showed up and they lost their minds at me. Like, they threw this huge tantrum. The nurses were, like, concerned for my safety. That's how crazy they were. And, then I discovered that what that was all about was the will. They had her on psychotropics and they changed the will, and I was kicked out of the will. And so then they started blowing up my social media with all of my past indiscretions.
Oh God.
And I'm like, I don't know what you think you're doing, but that's what made me stronger.
Right.
That's what made me me. That's what has enabled me to help so many people
Yeah.
move past their past. Right?
Yeah. You know how to hold space for that stuff already.
Okay, so tell us about that. What is it? Because seriously, like I was having this awareness the other day when I was listening to some stuff on YouTube. I love watching other people's stuff. It's just so enlightening. And there was all this terminology being thrown out. And that was one of the things that the host was saying. And I'm like, we really need to have a glossary of these new terms so that those that are coming to awareness and consciousness about who they really are being with themselves have a glossary to go to and go, okay, what does that mean? To hold space. I know what it means, you know what it means, but what if our listeners don't? So what does that mean?
It's a big question. That's a big question, and it's really important. Yeah, I guess like as I am able to take up space for myself, I think that I've learned how to carry that. And so somebody who maybe is still like figuring out where their space is and how to hold it for themselves, that's how they can, I don't know, like take advantage or have help by somebody who can hold a bigger space. Like I've already held space for all my traumas and all my shit. And so it's already been held.
In there.
Yeah, it's, and so like in one way that it's maybe more physical to understand is like on the dance floor. Like like I like to dance.
Right.
Okay. And I like to go clubbing, and I go to this like very specific place, and there's this, it's called the House of Yes. And there's a very specific part of the floor that I just like really like to be energetically. I feel like, you know, all my stuff aligns, and also just acoustically, I can hear like it just, I like it there. And it'll be like a completely crowded dance floor. Everyone's like all smushed up against each other. But I like have like, I don't know, a 3-foot ring around me because that's the space that I'm taking up. And I don't know, that's the best way to like see it or feel it.
Because that's spatial.
Yeah, right.
Holding space can be spatial.
Yeah.
It could also be multi-sensory. So it could be you're holding space, meaning the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
Where we don't know what we don't know yet.
Right.
And so when we hold space for that, even though let's say someone is like this, all scrunched up, maybe it's us,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so we can even hold space for ourselves of the realm of possibilities, what we don't know about ourselves yet that we don't know. And there's no judgment.
Yeah. Right.
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
There's no judgment. It's just like, all right, like I do that for my clients too. It's like let's say when a client comes to me and they want to grow their company and whatever, we identify the goals. Then it's like I hold that space for that to happen easily and effortlessly with the least amount of resistance. And then that is a vibration. Like that's literally an energy because I don't have any judgment on it. Like I don't make them wrong for not already being there.
Yeah.
I just hold the possibility of it. And then they seem to more easily slide into it.
Yeah.
Because we're not looking for what's wrong with them. We're not looking for why they haven't done it already. What we're holding space for in our thoughts and in our emotions and in our vibration, and maybe even physically, is that spatially, to your point, being on the dance floor and you've got this like people, you don't have to go in there and go, like, here's some
Yeah.
tape.
No, there's not tape on the floor.
Yeah, I want to tape out a circumference and nobody's coming inside my tape,
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's you're owning it inside you.
Yeah.
And that's power. That's power.
And I see also with what you're saying, it could be like, someone's at a crossroads, right? And they're like, okay, I can do this or I can do this. And even just those two options could be limiting, right? Of like, okay, I think I can do this or this. And you can come in and be like, whoa, you could do whatever you want. There's all this other choices too. What about this path over here? Like you didn't even look behind you. Look, there's like this other one.
360.
Yeah.
What's that? Like when you see a picture of an atom and they have all these multi-dimensional rings.
Yeah.
That's the human being.
Yeah.
And nothing kills possibility more than an either or.
Right.
Because it's a double bind.
Right.
It's a double bind. You have to do this or that. You can have this or that. And life is so not. That's the point here, is that we've been trained to accept and believe that life is about polarity.
Mm-hmm.
That you can be this or that, you can have this or that. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
There's a full spectrum of possibilities. And it's whatever vibration you choose to create within yourself that then gets projected out into, let's say, the quantum field, for lack of a better term,
Mm-hmm.
God, the universe, and it delivers every single time.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like what you're getting, it's, well, then what are you focusing on?
Right.
What are you bringing into being? And so the shame and the judgment and the polarity ideas or notions block possibilities.
Yeah.
And I would think it would be the same with relationships, right?
Well, I think like with judgment, anytime I have judgment about somebody else, it's like a very good clue that that's probably something I judge about myself. So relationships are just there to like help you reflect that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. In Neville Goddard's words, are you familiar with Neville?
No.
Oh, you will love Neville. So I recommend anything Neville Goddard.
I'm writing it down.
He has a great book called The Feeling is the Secret. Because a lot of coaches tell people to visualize, but they leave out the feeling part.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really, we are, all of our relationships and our reality and our circumstances and our experiences are us pictured out, like projected outward. And so trying to change external things, experiences, people, trying to control dynamics will exhaust you. Oh, and I actually have a client I'm working with right now that is literally exhausted. and I'm concerned about his health. And I've given him these exercises to do, and he's finally, after so long, he's finally submitting to doing the exercise because he's exhausted himself with, years and decades of trying to fix, control, and change things outside of himself, and it just never works.
Yeah.
Short legs. Yeah. So we're going to run over time. So I want to bring this to a close because I think we could talk all day. So I definitely want to have you back. Okay. So you created a doll. I want you to share your doll.
All right. So, okay. Yeah. That's been part of my thing, is like doing less public relations and more art. And so I made a doll. Her name is Godiva. The project's called Pushing My Buttons, and it's based on Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Body.
Love Louise.
So the idea is that every body part corresponds to a different emotion. So like even when I, if I like stub my toe or something, I often just Google like Louise Hay stub my right toe, like what's going on? So to try to illustrate this to people who maybe haven't, been familiar with this idea before, I made Godiva. So you can actually push her buttons. It's a mannequin, and her entire torso has been painted and color coded with different organs. Cool. And so let's say you want to press, let me think, the spleen. The spleen is obsession. So when you press the button on the spleen, there's a sound that happens that's like a baby crying. When you press on the large intestine, that represents joy, and then she laughs. So, so she has 7 different sounds and buttons that can be pressed. And I brought her recently to a little festival down in Miami called the Love Burn. And I'm working on another one right now called Chakra Girl. And it's going to be interactive, where you can actually record the sound that you think the chakra sounds like.
Nice. Like an ohm at a different tonality.
Yeah. Or, like if maybe like, what does the heart chakra sound like to you? Like maybe it's, and so playing around with that one now.
That is so cool. So and then we'll kind of, I'll give you a chance to like tell people where they can get her. My very first personal growth mentor was Louise Hay.
Yeah.
And I was in my 20s, and I was in a lot of pain on every level. I was drinking a lot of booze, and I was so disconnected from my power, my inner being. I was just flailing about, going from thing to thing, looking for some sort of level of happiness. And someone loaned me Louise's book, You Can Heal Your Life. It sat on my nightstand for about a week. She asked for it back when she asked me how I liked it, and I told her I hadn't cracked the book yet. So she made me give the book back. And so about 6 months later, I had like ballooned up, like my body was really thick and round and unhealthy. And I was like, oh, I have to go get that book. So I did. And I started working the exercises in it, and it literally started unraveling all these constructs of pain and suffering and trauma and drama and lies. And then she came out with the book, You Can Heal Your Body. So thank you to Louise Hay for dedicating your life to our happiness, because it's a game changer. And see, I knew we connected on a core level somewhere. So can people buy your doll? How does this work?
No, no, there's just one of each. I guess she does. She could be sold at some point. But it's more like I'm interested in bringing her to festivals and bringing her to events. I brought her to an art fundraiser in Brooklyn recently, and there was kids playing with her. You know, she's pretty robust, and she can be played with by people of all ages.
Nice.
So yeah, she's willing to travel, and so yeah, she could maybe attend an event or something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So people need to reach out to you and book you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I highly recommend everybody do that.
Pushing my buttons or Chakra Girl.
I love the Chakra Girl thing. Yeah. So kind of like early on in my waking up journey, which I'm still in.
Yeah.
I think I'll be there forever. Because there's always more. I used to buy these packets of bath salts, and you could get them in different colors, and the colors coincided with the chakras, and you would dump one into your bath and sit in it. And then I took it to another level, and I would do toning, and or breath exercises, but mostly toning. And so if it was like a purple one, it's crown chakra. If it was a red one, it's root chakra. And I would just experiment with like which tone and sound resonates with that area of my body. And then I could feel it vibrate. And I think that really helped me in releasing a lot of the trauma that was there. It definitely stirred the pot. I mean, I was lit up. And so I don't want to dissuade anybody from working on themselves, but just saying, you're going to get lit up, and it'll be a good thing, because then awesome stuff will start coming into your life. But don't take anything, any part of it personal. Just keep rolling, right?
Yeah.
So what do you got for folks? I would love to have people access your materials.
Great. Well, I'd love for you to stay connected. You can find me at my website, danahumphrey.com. You can learn about my book. You can get in touch with me about my art. I also have a YouTube channel where I have a bunch of free meditations. They're all around 10 minutes, and they tell you how long they are. So if you only have 7 minutes, you can do the 7-minute one. And I hope you enjoy.
Awesome. So definitely head over to danahumphrey.com. We're going to have the link to your YouTube channel, your website in the show notes. And how will people find out where you're going to bring a Chakra Girl?
Chakra Girl's going to be
Godiva.
Chakra Girl's coming to Black Rock City, to Burning Man this year in Nevada, in Labor Day weekend. So she'll be at Rudist Camp, Dark Heart Temple. Nice. And you can follow me on Instagram at Dana K. Humphrey to see updates on Godiva and Chakra Girl. And if you want to follow me on YouTube for the free meditations, it's Dana Humphrey Life Coaching on YouTube.
I love it. You are just phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. Yeah, and I can't wait to do more with you. So everybody definitely give Dana a follow and start using her meditations, and then leave a comment on her channel as to what kind of great things are unraveling in your life. So thank you for being here. And thank you for listening, watching, sharing, subscribing. And if you like my show, please leave a review. It gives me some traction and it gets it out to more people. This show is on every major podcast platform that exists. So I really appreciate you doing that. And remember, stay aligned, stay awake, and stay sovereign. Love you.